Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel and the Zenith 750 Super Duty build. Here's what we're going to do in this video. The first half of the video is going to be fitting the jury struts to the wings. And in the second half of the video, I'm going to take you through the airplane and show you what's coming up next on the Super Duty project and everything else I've got going on here. I've been wanting to make this video for about 2 weeks now, and I wanted to start off with showing you the finished jury struts on the right side of the plane. In the rest of this video, we're going to do the jury struts on the left side, but these have been at the powder coaters for about 2 weeks, so I haven't had them here to finish making this video. They just don't do white that often, and I wanted them done in white. So now I got them back today, and I've installed them on the right side of the airplane, and after I show you these, we're going to get these all fit up on the left side of the plane. This is what we're doing today. We are installing jury struts, and these are what are called the jury struts. And what these do is they attach from the wing to the struts, and because these struts are so long, they just add some stability and rigidity to the struts so that these don't move or kind of flutter in the wind, I guess. So here is what they look like all completed. They're not hard to do. You can see there's 4 pieces total. 2 of them attach up here, 1 of them attaches on the front of the wing, and there are a couple little eye bolts that will get installed through the struts. But yeah, it's not hard to do, but I will tell you there is one little gotcha that got me, and I had to replace this steel tube here. I had to get a new one from Zenith. I'll talk about that as we do the other side of the plane. Well, let's start with taking you through the plans. This is the page that deals with the jury struts on the Super Duty. Got real nice drawings here. You can see the jury struts here. Lots of detailed pictures of how they go together. You can see the 2 struts here that go from the fuselage up to the wing. And you'll see these eye bolts that go through the struts. It's kind of the first step in getting the jury struts fit to the wings. You'll see you'll drill a hole through the strut, you'll insert a bushing, and then this eye bolt goes through the bushing. These are the bushings here. These are for the main struts. These 2 are for the aft strut. And if I can just spin around here, that is these, let me focus the camera here. That's these eye bolts here that are going through the wing. Now, one thing I just want to point out is so far for me on the struts, I've only drilled a 3/16 hole just to put these eye bolts through. And what you'll need to do, or what I need to do yet, is take these out and drill a 1/4-inch hole so that I can put those steel bushings through here. I didn't drill the 1/4-inch hole in here yet simply because I want to buy a new 1/4-inch drill bit to do this. All the 1/4-inch drill bits I have are just kind of old and crappy, and I want to get a nice new sharp bit. So just to get these fit for now, I just have a 3/16 hole drilled with the eye bolt going through the strut. For these eye bolts that go through the strut, I'm going to show you in just a minute how I figured out where on the strut to drill those holes span-wise. But what I do want to show you in the plans, once you find the location on the strut, for the main strut, you're going to want to measure in 56 millimeters, and that's where you're going to drill the hole for the eye bolt. And on the aft strut, it's 26 millimeters. So that's the location this way, and now we just need to find the location of this hole this way on the strut. And if we look at the left side of the airplane, I do have 3 of the 4 already fit. And I saved the last one here just because I was kind of, like I said, waiting to get those other struts back from the powder coater. So today we're going to finish this up, and I'm going to install this last one. I haven't started anything with it yet, but the way that I put this one on is the exact way that I did all of these. So I've already filmed this assembly here going together, so let's go back a couple weeks and look at that footage. Now I think we want these struts, or jury struts, to be perpendicular with the bottom of the wing. We don't want them angled like this or angled like this, because these brackets that are on the bottom of the wing are bent at a 90-degree angle. So we want this rod to come down at a 90-degree angle. Now this is the way that I did it. I took this square here, I put it on the bottom of the wing, and then you could do it on the side or the middle, however you want here. But I put it like this to get 90 degrees from the bottom of the wing, and I came down and I marked a spot on the strut. So this gets it exactly perpendicular to the bottom of the wing. Now this piece right here is the next piece I want to get mounted. This goes between the forward strut and the aft strut. Some of the things you can notice I already did on here. I've already rounded the corners on here, and I've already rounded the corners on both ends here. In fact, on one of these ends, I actually cut off almost, well, about probably 3/16 because it was a little bit too long. The other thing you're going to notice is these holes here are not going to be exactly in the center. They're going to be a little bit low like this. And I'll show you why once I get this on the strut. Well, the first thing you'll notice with this sitting just on the struts like this are these tabs. You notice how they go straight up. If I put this on backwards, which you don't want to do, you'll see how these are now pointed up this way. So you definitely know the correct orientation of this because it really can only fit one way. Or, you know, it'll fit both ways, but these tabs will only be straight up if you have it on correctly. All right, one of the things you might notice is, this is going to be hard to show you, but if I make this steel rod perpendicular to the strut, it would be sitting something like this. But then you can see that's not correct on the front. So in order to connect this to the front, I have to lower this. So now this steel piece sits on this kind of at a downhill angle. And that's why this hole has to be down a little bit low. If you had the hole exactly in the center, the bottom of the steel piece would hit this eye bolt here, and it actually wouldn't fit. What you'd have to do, which I did on the right side, is I did drill it actually right in the center, but then I had to grind off part of the bottom of the steel piece so that this piece could sit downhill like that. So on this one, I actually did grind off a little bit of the bottom, but I lowered the hole in here a little bit, and that's what lets it now sit kind of downhill. It's hard to explain on here or show you, but I think that if you take your time when you're fitting this piece to your struts, you'll see what I mean, and you'll see how it goes together. This might be a better way to explain it. If this is the strut, this is that little eye bolt that goes through, and let's say that this ruler represents this crossbar here. You would think that the bar would go like that. But actually how it sits on here is like this. And so this hole here, you can see if it's in the center, it would be too high. So you have to kind of lower that hole. That would lower it down like this. Or you could grind off a little bit of the bottom of that cross piece. So it doesn't actually sit like this. It sits at an angle like that. Here I have the aft jury strut here, and this is what I'm going to show you how I install. And again, everything I do on here is exactly what I did on this one and this one. So, you know, you only have to see me install one. And the first thing I'm going to do is prep this for installation. Now what I want to do with this one is make it look like this one. I don't want a square edge there. I want to make it nice and round. So I'm going to take this on the old grinder here and make this nice and round, and then we'll drill the hole. Well, here it is. This is nice and round now. All I have to do is drill a hole there, and the bottom of this tube will be ready. You can see the other end will need cut. This is the one I messed up on. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But you can see you'll need to measure and cut the other end of this rod. Now, because the rod is too long, it has to be trimmed at the top. I need to trim it to fit from here into here. So the quick and easy way I do this is I just measured from the hole on here up to here, a little bit past the hole On mine, it looks like 19 inches and 3/8 would be plenty long enough from the hole to the top. So now what I'm doing is I'm measuring from the hole, 19 and 3/8 up to here, and I'll put a pen mark here and then cut this part off. Now there are probably much better ways to cut this if you have better tools than I do, but all I have is a Dremel with a grinding wheel available in my shop. So I'm going to take this and go around here and cut it off with this, and we'll square this up real nice on the grinder. Now, once that tube is in here, I'm just going to take my pen and trace the hole that's in this bracket right onto the jury strut, and I'll have a location for my hole. Now, here is where the gotcha is, and this is what got me on this one. So what I did on this one here is I've put a couple sticks down here and held this flat, right? So it's not angled or anything like that. It's sitting nice and flat on here. And I took this, and this was all set up in a drill press, and I went straight down here, through this side, and out through that side. I drilled the hole straight through. Now let me show you what happens when you drill the hole straight through. Now I'll show you the problem with drilling that hole straight through. On this one here, you can see that it has a bolt going through the jury strut in there, and then down at the bottom, it fits just perfectly like it should. The jury strut sits flat against this tab here. Now with this screwed up strut with the hole drilled straight through it up here, when I put the bolt through it and put it in up here, when I got down to the bottom, it was sitting, let me see if I can show you, it was sitting on here like this. So it would have been like this. Instead of flat like this to go up next to the tab, it was angled like this. So that told me that the top here, you can't just drill the hole straight through because it won't line up. So I ruined this one and I replaced it with a new one here. So I'll show you how I got around that. Now since I can't put this through a drill press and just drill straight down through here while this is held flush here, what I'm going to do is drill the hole right here where I have my mark. Let's see where it's on this side here. If you can, boy, I need a new lens for this camera. It just won't autofocus. But you can see on here where I drew that circle. I'm going to drill a hole through here first, put it back on the wing, and then draw another hole on this side and come back and drill it. So I have drilled through that hole, and I know you're not going to be able to see on here. It looks like that's as close as I can go on there with the camera to let it focus. But anyway, I've drilled a small hole right in the center of the hole that I drilled. And then what I'll do is I'll just work my way up with the drill bits up to 3/16 because there's a 3/16 bolt that goes through there. Now what I will do is put this back on the bottom strut. I'm going to take the top, and with my hole drilled in there, I'm going to put a cleco in there. And then on the bottom, I'm going to put a nut on here because I want to hold this flat and tight against this tab so that it's not angled in any way. Once I get a nut on there and this is flat on the tab, then I'll take my pen and draw another circle up here, take it all back off, and then drill this hole. Here's the cleco in the top, and then on the bottom, like I said, I have the bolt going through there. And it's with a nut on there. Now the bolt I used in there is too long, so I just piled a bunch of washers in there. But what that does, it keeps it nice and tight against here so that it's not angled at all. So now I can draw my circle on here and it will be perfectly lined up. And it's all done. I took it apart, I drilled this hole. Now I've got my bolt through the top on the bottom. You can see it sits nice and flush against the tab there. So this side now is complete. I can take it all apart and have them powder coated. And it really doesn't matter how long it takes for them to powder coat now, because although I did need to get these cut and fit while the wings and struts are on, once they come back off, I really don't need them until everything's painted and everything goes back to final assembly again. So all I showed you on here was installing this one here, but the procedure for that one and that one is exactly the same as that. So hopefully, I don't know, hopefully this video helped you with seeing how the struts go together and maybe gave you a pointer or two. Well, now that these jury struts are done and the video is getting a little bit long, I just want to quickly take you around the rest of the airplane and kind of show you what's going to be coming up on the project here. One of the things I've been doing is kind of getting the fuselage ready for paint. Now, if you look at areas like this is just spray, this is self-etching primer from a spray can. And the reason it's primed here is because I wanted to prime the skin and the inside of this piece, just because those two pieces touch and I wanted some corrosion protection in there. But I wasn't real careful how I sprayed it. You know, before this was attached, I just kind of sprayed it like that. But this isn't a good two-part epoxy primer that I would want under the top coat of paint. So what I want to do is I take MEK and get rid of all this primer around here like that. So I still have to do this area, but what I've been working on is actually the area in the back, which is all done now. I did the same thing here. Before I attached this piece, I sprayed the back side of this with the primer, and then I sprayed the fuselage with primer. So I've been cleaning off all the overspray here. When I put these stringers on, I just sprayed them because I wanted the primed underneath here. Same with the skin, it's primed on the back side of here. But I got primer all over the corner here. So I've been wiping all of that off, and you can see it's all done up until right here. So here you can see the primer here that I'll take and clean off. And again, I want to remove that because it's not real great high quality primer. It's perfect for just priming the inside for corrosion protection, but like I said, it's not something I want to spray paint over. If we look at the top of the airplane, I was thinking that I wanted to have the windows installed before I painted the fuselage. And what you can see I've actually started doing here was these windows get glued in, and I'm going to put that glue all around here to seal this so no rain can get in. So what I've actually done, if you can see on here, is I've taken this painter's or mass, I don't know what it's called. It's just fine line automotive painter's tape. And you can see with the 1/8 inch, it's nice and flexible to go around corners. And I tape that off because what I want to do is I want to put the sealant in there. And then once the sealant is in there before it dries, you peel the tape off and you just get a real nice line on the sealant. But what I realized, what I wasn't thinking is, you can see how it goes over the edge of the aluminum here. Well, before I do that, I want the aluminum painted. So basically, the windows need to be put in after the fuselage is painted. So what I'll do is I'll peel this tape back off, take the window out, paint the fuselage, and then glue the window in, and then I can put that sealant around here, and it'll be on top of the paint, so it'll be nice and sealed. And I'm going to do the same procedure there, I think, with the side windows. I think that I'm going to leave these out, paint the fuselage, and then rivet in the windows and do the same thing. I'll put that sealant all around there to seal this, because I noticed on my cruiser, when I leave that airplane out in the rain, water just really seeps in between the window and the skin and gets the inside of the fuselage wet. So I want to make sure that the windows on here are sealed nice. I've also started fitting the wingtip. Oh, I've only done it on this side. But you can see this one doesn't really have a real nice fit. There's kind of a big gap right here. And I want to fill that. And this is the exact way my cruiser was also. I think I did mention this on one of the cruiser videos if you really want to go back and look. But on the right wingtip here on the cruiser, it actually fit pretty nice. And I really didn't have to do anything to the front of this wingtip. Now over on the left wingtip, there was a big gap between the wingtip and the skin all the way around here. This one just didn't fit good at all. And so what I've done is I've extended this wingtip with a mixture of resin and micro balloons and things like that. There's a special way you have to do it. And I don't really think I showed this in any other videos, so maybe I'll show you when I do my Super Duty wingtip, but it looks absolutely perfect. You'd never know that this isn't actually the wingtip right here. This is all resin and kind of filler on the front there. Like I said, this had the same big gap that the Super Duty one has. Well, once I'm done with the right wingtip, I will work on the left wingtip as it is sitting on the floor right there. All right, one of the other things I'm working on is the front, or I'm going to start working on is the front. Now I've put on my glare shield skin here, but I don't want this permanently on until the engine is installed and everything's wired and the engine's been test run, the avionics have all been verified that, you know, the autopilot works and the radios and everything. So basically I'm not going to put this skin on until the fuselage is painted, the engine is installed and everything's done. But you'll notice what I did here when I put this back on is I did put some rivets in here, because what I'm doing is I'm making the same fairing that goes around the bottom of the windshield as I did on my cruiser. If you're new to the channel or you just started following along, well, this is my Zenith cruiser, and you can see this fairing here that I made for the front. It fits real nice. It's custom made for this airplane. I laid the fiberglass up right on here. And it really looks nice. What Zenith gives you is kind of a rubber boot that goes around the bottom, which does work well, but I just think this looks a lot nicer. So this is the same fairing that I want to make now for the Super Duty. Now, as you might imagine, the windshield has to be installed in order to lay up the fiberglass on here to make that fairing. And the only way to install the windshield is to actually put in rivets in here. I can't just have the clecos, obviously. You can see that it wouldn't sit next to the fuselage. So some of this I did have to rivet together, like all this is riveted here because the fiberglass will come down over this. And I have to put this windshield in the exact position, so I'll need to put on those side pieces here and screw this in. I'll screw the top in. Right now the windshield's just kind of sitting on here. In fact, these clecos are holding it back. It wants to slide forward, so I put these in there just to hold it. So anyway, I've temporarily riveted some of this skin on just so I can lay up this fairing. So I want to do that, probably one of the next things I start doing. And then I figured once that's done, I need to work on this inboard skin here. And again, just like I've mentioned on my cruiser, I want to make a fairing that covers all this up here. And that's this area right here. There's a lot of wind that gets in here if this isn't sealed. I mean, I could just fill this up with like clear silicone or something, but I don't like the looks of that. What I wanted to do is make a nice fairing that goes around here kind of like this, like just kind of fits like a glove. But I never made the fairings for here because I got the Super Duty kit and started building that, so I never really finished this. But because I do know that a lot of air gets in here, I do want to seal this off with a nice fairing. Well, what I mean is I want to seal this off with a nice fairing. I'd love to make one for the cruiser, but I'll probably never get around to it. But this one here, once I have this skin on here, I will put the wings back on the plane and lay up the fairings for the corners. So I've got 3 fairings that I need to make yet. One for that corner, and the one that goes all the way around here. It is very time consuming to do that. It does add a lot of time to the build. It's not necessary. If you're in a hurry to get your plane built and fly, you certainly don't have to do this, but I do like to do it. I think it looks really nice and it kind of sets the airplane apart a little bit. And it's kind of fun to do. So that's what's coming up next on there. Well, you might have noticed the old pits here in the background all torn apart. I actually took the cowling off just because I wanted to change the oil. All the annuals and everything are logged in the log books, but they didn't write in the actual oil change. So I really don't know when the last time the oil was changed. So I've just decided to do an oil change. I started polishing all this up, which looks pretty nice. These were already polished, but I kind of cleaned them up and then polished up the baffling here. It looks pretty nice on there. And then on the wheels, I kind of just decided to keep going. I took the wheel pants off, I took the wheels off, I repacked the bearings. I do need to replace the brakes, so I have to order new brakes. And one of the other things I noticed on this side here, where the wheel pants go, you can see the wheel pant is rubbing on this aluminum and it's kind of cutting into it. So I need to grind away a little bit of the fiberglass on the wheel pant so that this isn't touching here. So a little bit of work to do on the pits. And then there is a bottom panel that goes on the pits. I'll show you over here that I took it off the bottom of the airplane and really cleaned it up. You can see in some of the other pictures I'll post here just how dirty and nasty this thing was. But what I did was I cleaned up the window, I put the window back in, I used all new hardware. There's plastic washers under there. It's still quite dirty, and all this dirt is on the window itself. I couldn't get this off. I want to replace this windshield or window, but because it's even cracked right here, and around some of the screws it's got some cracks too. But I just figured I want to get this airplane back in the air before winter gets here. So for now I just put in the old window. I will replace that at some point. So took this off the bottom of the airplane, got that cleaned up. And I just figured while I've started doing all this, the annual for this airplane is due in January. So I figured while it's apart now and I have the panel off the bottom of the airplane and the wheel pants off and the cowling off, this just might be a good time now to do the annual before I button it up. Well, everybody, I hope this video was somewhat helpful for you. If you're putting jury struts on your Zenith, hopefully just seeing how I did some of this will give you some tips and guidance for your airplane. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and subscribe. I'm this close to 20,000 subscribers. Getting 20,000 subscribers actually means nothing. It's just neat to see 20,000. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let's get over that hump to 20,000. All right, that's all I have for you on this video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one.